Have you ever felt rejected by your own child? That emptiness left by silence, indifference, or cold words can be one of the deepest pains we face in old age. After years of dedication, love, and sacrifice, it's natural to expect a close and respectful relationship. But sometimes, reality doesn't meet our expectations. And there we are, asking ourselves, what did I do wrong? Why do they treat me this way? What can I do to recover what seems lost? Though this pain may feel overwhelming, let me tell you something that might change your perspective. Being rejected by your child can be a blessing in disguise. It can be the spark that leads you to reflect on what is within your control, to let go of emotional attachments, and to rediscover an inner freedom you may have forgotten. In Stoicism, great thinkers like Seneca, Epictetus, and Marcus Aurelius teach us that even in the most difficult moments, we can find wisdom, purpose, and serenity. Today, we'll explore how a child's rejection, far from being the end, can become a silent teacher, helping you rediscover your inner strength and live this stage of life with greater peace and dignity. Through 8 powerful lessons, I'll show you how to navigate this pain, how to forgive, let go, and most importantly, how to redirect your love towards something that truly nourishes your soul. I'm Gabriel, and if this is your first time here, I invite you to subscribe and stay until the end. On this channel, we talk about the wisdom of living, applying philosophical and practical principles to face the challenges of aging with courage and purpose. The final lesson will surprise you. It might even change the way you see this stage of your life entirely. Let's begin. Number 1. Rejection is your greatest teacher. A child's rejection is one of the deepest pains life can bring. It doesn't just hurt your heart, it shakes your very foundation. After all, what parent hasn't poured years of sacrifice, love, and dedication into their children, hoping deep down that they will recognize and reciprocate that effort? If today you feel that your child is rejecting you, ignoring you, or failing to appreciate you, I want you to know that you are not alone. It's a common feeling, but that doesn't make it any less heartbreaking. I want to share a story that deeply impacted me. Years ago, I met a man named James. He was a close family friend who had spent decades dedicating himself fully to his children. He worked long hours to make sure they never lacked anything, sacrificed personal dreams, and always put his family's needs before his own. But when he reached old age, he was met with a silence he had never expected. His children rarely visited, phone calls became infrequent, and family gatherings felt more like obligations than acts of love. One day, James said something to me that I'll never forget. I spent years asking myself what I did wrong, why they don't love me the way I love them. But now I realize that the problem isn't just with them. Part of this pain comes from me, from the expectations I built, from everything I thought I deserved in return for what I gave, and that more than their rejection is what has been destroying me. What James came to understand is a fundamental lesson we also find in Stoic philosophy. Suffering doesn't come from what others do to us, but from how we interpret their actions. Epictetus said, "It's not events that disturb us, but our interpretation of them." Your children have their own lives, their own struggles and priorities, and while the rejection you feel may seem personal, often it's not. The pain you feel right now does not define your worth as a parent. It is an emotional response to an expectation that hasn't been met. And this is where transformation begins. It's not about resigning yourself, it's about freeing your heart from the weight of those expectations. Marcus Aurelius said, "Love whatever happens to you, for it is what was meant for you." And what you have now is an opportunity to find peace within yourself, independent of how others treat you. Think about this. How many times have you given expecting something in return, even if you never said it out loud? It's natural to want love, respect, and attention. But when that desire turns into a requirement for your happiness, you hand over control of your inner peace to someone else. If your well-being depends on your child acknowledging you, you will always be at the mercy of something you cannot control. I once asked James how he managed to move past the pain. He told me, "I started looking inward. I stopped expecting them to fill my emptiness and began asking myself how I could fill it on my own. I realized that peace doesn't come from what others do. It comes from what you do for yourself. And when I stopped waiting for something from them, I also stopped suffering over what they didn't give me." A child's rejection is not the end of your story, nor does it define your life. It is an opportunity to reflect on how much of your pain comes from unmet expectations and to begin building a relationship with yourself based on acceptance and self-love. Seneca said, "As long as you live, keep learning how to live." And in this case, learning to live means letting go of expectations and finding value in who you are, not in how others treat you. Today, I invite you to look inward and ask yourself, how much are you allowing your child's actions to determine your happiness? What freedom could you find if you chose to let go of that burden? Because true love does not demand, and true peace does not depend on what others do. It is within you, waiting for you to recognize it. Number 2, letting go to set yourself free. The love between parents and children is often taken for granted, but what happens when that love no longer flows as it once did? Maybe you feel that something has broken, that the bond you built with so much effort is now filled with silence, distance, or indifference. This is one of the deepest pains a person can experience, but it is also one of the greatest opportunities to grow and strengthen yourself from within. This is where we need to talk about control. Stoic philosophy teaches us that one of the biggest sources of human suffering is trying to control what is not in our hands. Epictetus put it brilliantly: some things are within our control and some are not. Your child's actions, thoughts, and decisions are beyond your control. You can guide them, support them, and love them, but you cannot decide for them how they should act, feel, or respond. However, there is something you can control: your perspective. Many times, a child's rejection or distance feels like a personal attack, but it rarely is. Adult children carry their own burdens: work stress, emotional struggles, relationship issues, or even wounds they have never shared with you. Sometimes, what looks like rejection has nothing to do with you and everything to do with their inability to handle their own inner conflicts. Imagine for a moment a mountain. Storms pass, winds howl, but the mountain remains. This is what Stoicism teaches us: to be that mountain, steady and calm, no matter what emotional storms others bring. It doesn't mean ignoring your pain, but rather facing it with the understanding that your strength does not depend on how others treat you, but on how you choose to respond. To develop this perspective, there is one powerful tool: compassion. It's easy to see rejection as ingratitude, but often there are invisible stories behind our children's actions. Maybe your child doesn't know how to express what they feel. Maybe they are so consumed by their own struggles that they have forgotten how important you are in their life. By practicing compassion, you allow yourself to see beyond your wounds and consider that their rejection may not be cruelty, but rather confusion or unspoken pain. Marcus Aurelius said, "When you arise in the morning, think of what a privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love." This may seem simple, but it holds great power. Even if your child rejects you, you still have the privilege of loving them, even from a distance. Love does not always require immediate reciprocity. Sometimes it is an act of generosity toward life itself. Another key to navigating rejection is remembering that everything changes. Heraclitus, another great thinker, said, "No one steps in the same river twice." Life is in constant motion, and relationships, even the most difficult ones, are always evolving. What seems like an unbridgeable gap today may transform over time, but that transformation begins with you. By working on your inner peace, you not only free yourself from emotional weight, but also create the conditions for a possible reconciliation in the future. So, if you feel the weight of rejection, ask yourself, how can I take care of myself in this moment? The answer does not lie in changing your child or waiting for them to act differently. It lies in returning to yourself, reclaiming your power, and remembering that your ability to love, to think, and to grow does not depend on anyone else. It is a privilege that is always in your hands. Number 3, the power of unconditional love. Unconditional love is one of the most powerful and challenging forces we can experience. As parents, we feel it the moment our children enter the world, a bond that transcends words. But when that love is not reciprocated, when rejection takes the place of the gratitude or closeness we hoped for, holding on to it becomes a true test of character. And this is where Stoic teachings can guide us toward a deeper, more transformative way of loving. To love unconditionally means to let go of expectations. It means understanding that your child, while a part of you, is also an independent being with their own path, wounds, and choices. Seneca said, "True love is wishing the best for someone without expecting anything in return." This kind of love is not based on how you are treated or whether you are valued as you deserve. It does not demand or cling because it finds its essence in the act of loving itself, not in the response it receives. Facing rejection with unconditional love does not mean tolerating mistreatment or endless indifference. Rather, it is a way of freeing yourself from the emotional burden of wishing your child were different, of fighting against what you cannot control. Epictetus taught that our emotions should not depend on the actions of others, but on how we choose to interpret those actions. Loving your child unconditionally does not mean justifying them. It means deciding that their rejection does not define your ability to love or your worth as a person. This kind of love transforms relationships because it creates a space of respect and understanding. It does not mean you approve of your child's behavior, but it does mean you choose not to respond with resentment or bitterness. When you love freely, without expecting anything in return, you give your child the chance to see the strength of that love, to feel it as a refuge they can return to if they ever choose to. Stoic philosophy also reminds us that unconditional love is a reflection of our inner strength. Marcus Aurelius said, "The best revenge is to be unlike those who wrong you." In this context, it means that your child's rejection should not lead you to respond in the same way. Loving unconditionally is not a sign of weakness. It is an act of courage. It is choosing the harder but more freeing path, to stay true to your principles even when the world seems to be against you. Think of love as a river. When it flows freely, it finds its way, moves past obstacles, and nourishes everything it touches. But if we try to force its course, stop it, or control it, it stagnates and loses its strength. Unconditional love is like that river. It does not stop for the rocks of rejection or the detours of differences. It keeps flowing, not because it is unaware of pain, but because it understands that its purpose does not depend on what it encounters along the way. Accepting a child's rejection and responding with unconditional love does not mean the pain will disappear immediately, but it allows you to release that pain, little by little, so that it does not turn into resentment. As Buddhist philosopher Thich Nhat Hanh said, "True love has no hidden motives, it simply is." And when you choose this kind of love, you not only offer your child a refuge, but you also give yourself a peace that rejection cannot take away. Unconditional love does not promise that your child will change, nor that your relationship will be perfect, but it gives you the power to live with integrity, to remain true to yourself, and to find serenity even in the storm. In the end, unconditional love does not just transform the one who receives it, it transforms the one who gives it. It lifts you above the pain, connects you with your inner strength, and allows you to face rejection with dignity and grace. Number 4, don't let your ego control you. Pride, that inner voice that tells us we are right, that we were great parents, that we deserve gratitude and recognition, can be both a shield and a trap. When we feel rejected by our child, that wound can inflame our ego, making us think, how could they do this to me after everything I've done for them? But Stoicism invites us to look beyond pride and ask ourselves, is this feeling helping me heal, or is it pulling me deeper into pain? Seneca teaches us the greatest obstacle in life is self-centeredness, which locks us into our own perspective and prevents us from seeing things as they truly are. If we let pride dictate our reaction to rejection, we risk becoming prisoners of our own emotions, feeding a narrative in which we are the victims and our children the villains. But what if that narrative isn't the whole truth? Accepting that we may have made mistakes is not a sign of weakness, it is a sign of wisdom. Acknowledging that at some point we may not have listened enough, that we may have imposed our expectations, or that we may have unintentionally hurt our children with words or actions does not mean that the entire weight of the relationship falls on us. It means we are human, capable of reflection and growth, even at this stage of life. I saw this firsthand in a man named Robert, a family friend who felt rejected by his daughter for years. Every time he tried to reach out, she would avoid him or respond coldly. Wounded, he always thought, I was a good father. She's the one being unfair. But one day, in an honest conversation, his daughter said, Dad, I never felt like you really listened to me. You always thought you knew what was best for me, but you never gave me space to be myself. That revelation hit him hard, but it also opened his eyes. Robert had to confront his pride and recognize that, although he had acted with good intentions, he had not always understood what his daughter truly needed. That moment of humility changed everything. The shift wasn't immediate or perfect, but by letting go of his ego and admitting he didn't always have all the answers, Robert created space for dialogue and reconciliation. This is a powerful reminder. When we stop clinging to our pride, we create room for relationships to evolve. Stoicism encourages us to detach from our own rigid judgments. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Do not let your mind be filled with premature judgments. Approach each situation as if seeing it for the first time." Instead of assuming that our child is acting unfairly or that their rejection is a personal attack, we can observe the situation with a more open mind and ask, what can I learn from this? How can I respond with calm instead of reactivity? Pride can also blind us to opportunities for change. It tells us that if we feel hurt, we should wait for our child to make the first move, to apologize, to acknowledge their mistakes. But what if we were the ones to take the first step, not out of submission, but out of love and courage? Saying, maybe I didn't do everything perfectly, but I'm willing to listen and grow, is not an act of weakness. It is a strength that comes from humility. Remember, pride is like a wall that separates us from those we love. Tearing it down doesn't mean losing. It means finding a path to understanding and connection. As Epictetus said, man is not meant to be invulnerable, but to be adaptable to life. Being adaptable does not mean giving up your dignity. It means recognizing that true love sometimes requires us to adjust, to listen, and to grow, even when we feel hurt. So, if pride is weighing on you, ask yourself, what matters more, being right or being at peace? holding onto the idea that you are blameless, or opening yourself up to the possibility of a deeper relationship? The answer lies in your heart, not in your ego. If you're finding value in this video and discovering new ways to find serenity and purpose in the face of rejection, I invite you to subscribe and hit the like button. This helps me continue creating content that supports those who seek to navigate this stage of life with inner strength and emotional clarity. Stay until the end, because the final lesson will show you how to transform this challenge into an opportunity to redirect your love and live with renewed purpose. Let's continue. Number 5, stay calm in the face of others' judgment. The judgment of others can be an unexpected and painful burden when you face rejection from a child. In our society, family is often seen as a measure of personal success, and any fracture in those relationships can invite questioning looks, unfair criticism, or whispers that judge without understanding. What did you do to make your child walk away? Or why don't you try harder to fix things? These are the kinds of questions that can pierce your inner peace and make you doubt yourself even more. But how can you face these opinions without letting them deeply affect you? Stoic philosophy offers a valuable tool for dealing with the judgment of others: imperturbability. Epictetus once said, "When someone criticizes you or speaks ill of you, do not be angry. Simply reply, 'You do not know everything about me.'" This phrase is not just a shield against outside opinions. It is a reminder that the truth of your life is something only you fully understand. No one, not even those closest to you, can completely grasp the dynamics of your relationship with your child, your intentions, or the journey that has brought you to this point. Finding serenity in the face of judgment begins with a shift in perspective. Ask yourself, is it really worth spending my emotional energy on opinions that do not define me? Marcus Aurelius offers a powerful reflection. Do not let the opinions of others become your thoughts. If you allow external criticism to shape how you see yourself, you are giving control of your inner peace to people who have no right to determine your worth. This does not mean you should ignore all opinions, but rather that you should learn to filter them. Ask yourself, does this criticism come from someone who truly knows me, understands the full context of my situation, and speaks from a place of love and respect? If not, then their opinion does not deserve space in your mind or heart. Imagine your inner peace as a garden. The judgments and criticisms of others are like the wind, inevitable but passing. If you let every negative comment uproot your flowers or wither your fruits, you will never be able to enjoy what you have cultivated. But if you protect your garden with clear boundaries and a commitment to yourself, the wind can blow as hard as it wants without disturbing your serenity. That is imperturbability, not about building walls to keep others out, but about maintaining control over what you allow into your emotional space. Another powerful strategy is remembering that the judgment of others often says more about them than about you. Criticism frequently stems from people's own insecurities, fears, or unmet expectations. Someone who judges you for your child's rejection may be projecting their own fears of failure or their need to feel superior. Understanding this can free you from taking their words personally. Additionally, responding to judgment with calmness is a way to educate those around you. When you do not react with anger or distress, but instead with dignity and composure, you send a clear message. My worth is not up for debate, and I do not need to justify myself to anyone. This act of quiet strength not only protects your inner peace, but also sets an example for others who may be facing similar struggles. Social pressure can also manifest as an internal voice, the one that says, "I failed as a mother." People must think I didn't do enough, or "What kind of father am I if my child rejects me?" But these voices are not yours. They are echoes of external expectations that have no place on your personal journey. As Seneca said, the most powerful person is the one who has control over themselves. And that control includes silencing voices that do not serve you. Ultimately, the judgment of others loses its power when you find purpose and value beyond external relationships. Your identity is not defined solely by being a parent, and certainly not by the opinions of those watching from the outside. Engage in activities, passions, and relationships that remind you of who you truly are. Whether it's reading, art, volunteering, or simply spending time with yourself, nurturing these aspects of your life will strengthen your connection to what really matters. Facing the judgment of others is not easy, but it is possible. By cultivating inner serenity, you become unshakable, someone who can walk with dignity even in the midst of criticism. As Epictetus said, only the person who governs themselves is truly free. You have that power, and by embracing it, you not only protect your peace, but also prove that no outside opinion can define you. Number 6, let go of resentment. Forgiveness is an act of liberation, not just for the one who has hurt you, but for yourself. Facing rejection from a child can leave deep scars, words left unspoken, gestures that never came, moments when you felt invisible or misunderstood. It's natural for resentment to grow in these painful spaces, filling your mind with questions and regrets. But while resentment may feel like a way to protect yourself, it is actually a weight that ties you to the past and keeps you from moving forward with lightness and peace. When we talk about forgiveness, we are not saying you should justify your child's rejection or minimize what you've been through. Forgiveness does not mean saying, "It doesn't matter." It means saying, "I will not allow this to keep hurting me." It is a profoundly stoic act because it involves taking control of the only thing that truly belongs to you, your response to life's circumstances. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The best revenge is to be unlike those who wrong you." This is not about revenge, it's about transcendence. Being unlike them means choosing a different path from resentment. If your child has acted with indifference or a lack of love, responding in the same way only continues a cycle of pain. Forgive, not because they necessarily deserve it, but because you deserve the peace that comes from letting go of that burden. Forgiveness does not happen overnight. It begins with acknowledging what you feel. Accept your pain, your anger, even your frustration. Ignoring these emotions only makes them stronger. Seneca taught us, "Nothing is more miserable than the person who is a slave to their own anger." Recognizing your resentment is not a sign of weakness, it is an act of courage, because by naming it, you give yourself the opportunity to work through it and eventually release it. By forgiving, you are also healing a relationship even more important than the one with your child, the relationship with yourself. A child's rejection often brings a heavy sense of guilt. What did I do wrong? Where did I fail? These questions can torment you, especially if you are someone who always tried to give your best. But this is where you must also extend forgiveness to yourself. Forgive yourself for not being perfect, for the mistakes you may have made out of love or simply not knowing any better. Seneca also said, "To err is human, to persist in error is foolish." Learn from what you have experienced, but do not remain trapped in endless self-judgment. Forgiveness does not always require a direct conversation. Your child may not be ready to hear your words, or the relationship may not allow for immediate reconciliation. But forgiveness does not need validation from the other person to be real. You can practice it in silence, through reflection, writing in a journal, or even speaking to yourself. This inner act holds incredible power because it frees your mind and heart from needing external change in order to find peace. Science supports this as well. Studies in psychology show that people who practice forgiveness experience lower stress, better heart health, and greater emotional well-being. It is like releasing a dam that has been holding back too much water. Suddenly, the flow of your life can move again, and you realize there is a path beyond the pain. Forgiveness does not mean forgetting what happened. Memory is a powerful tool, and remembering helps us learn and protect ourselves. But remember, without carrying bitterness. Think of forgiveness as letting go of a heavy stone you've been carrying in your backpack. The stone does not disappear, but it no longer weighs you down or prevents you from walking forward. Forgiveness is also an act of humility, recognizing that both you and your child are human, with flaws, limitations, and pains that sometimes get passed down in ways we don't fully understand. As Epictetus said, "Be gentle with others, they too are struggling." Your child may be dealing with their own fears, insecurities, or wounds, things they have not been able to share with you. Forgiving them is not just a gift to yourself, it is also an open door, so that if one day they are ready, they can return from a healthier place. The power of forgiveness lies in its ability to set you free. You cannot change the past, but you can choose how to carry it. Forgiving does not mean giving up on yourself, it means reclaiming your emotional freedom. It means allowing yourself to live this stage of life with the peace you deserve, with a heart that feels light and a mind that is at rest. Forgive your child. Forgive yourself. And remember, forgiveness is not a weakness, it is one of the highest forms of strength. Because in the end, forgiveness is not just a gift for the other person, it is the greatest gift you can give yourself: serenity and a heart without chains. Number 7, the blessing of redirecting your love. A child's rejection can feel like an immense void, a loss that seems to absorb all the love you have cultivated over the years. But that love, so deep and sincere, does not have to remain trapped in pain. It has the power to transform, to find new paths, and to become a force that not only heals you, but also enriches the world around you. This is the blessing of redirecting your love, taking what feels like a loss and turning it into an opportunity to connect, create, and serve. The love you give does not disappear just because it is not reciprocated. It is an energy that remains alive, waiting to be channeled into something meaningful. In Stoic philosophy, Marcus Aurelius reflected, "Love for others must be rooted in action." This means that love should not be confined to a single recipient or left to wither in resentment when it is not received as expected. Love has the capacity to expand and find new ways to flourish. Think for a moment about what brings you joy, about what you once loved before the responsibilities of life consumed your time and energy. Is there a hobby, a talent, or a cause you set aside? Perhaps you always wanted to learn to paint, but never found the time. Or maybe you were inspired by the idea of volunteering, helping those in need. Now is the time to redirect your love into things that bring you vitality and reconnect you with the world in new ways. Many people who have faced rejection or distance from their children have found inspiring ways to love and be loved. Take Helen, for example, a woman who, after years of trying to mend her relationship with her son without success, decided to channel her love into an animal rescue shelter. "I always wanted to help, but I never had the time," she said. At the shelter, she not only found a renewed sense of purpose, but also a community of people who shared her values and experiences. The love that once felt trapped in pain found a new flow, one that gave her strength and meaning. Redirecting your love can also mean strengthening the relationships you already have. Perhaps there are friendships you've neglected or relatives with whom you could build a deeper connection. Seneca said, Friendship is always beneficial. Your relationships do not have to be limited to immediate family. You can choose to surround yourself with people who appreciate and enjoy your presence. That, too, is a form of love. Beyond human connections, channeling your love into meaningful causes or creative activities can give you a sense of purpose that transcends any single relationship. Writing, gardening, cooking for others, or learning something new not only keeps you engaged, but also reminds you that the love within you has many ways to express itself. Epictetus taught that we must focus on what is within our control. If your child's behavior is not within your control, the way you express your love and live your life is. The key is to remember that love is not finite. It does not disappear simply because someone does not receive or appreciate it in the way you expected. On the contrary, when you choose to redirect it, love multiplies, bringing light to places you may have overlooked. And this is not just about giving, it is also about receiving. By opening yourself to new connections, you allow love to return to you in ways you may never have imagined. Science supports this approach. Studies on emotional well-being show that people who dedicate time to altruistic, creative, or community activities report higher levels of satisfaction and happiness, even in the face of personal challenges. Love, when redirected toward positive actions, becomes a renewable source of emotional energy. Imagine what would happen if, instead of focusing on rejection, you asked yourself, where else can I direct this love? Who or what can I share this energy with? It can be as simple as nurturing a plant, teaching a grandchild something new, or as big as joining a cause you are passionate about. Every small act of love counts, and each one helps you heal and grow. Redirecting your love does not mean giving up on your child or closing the door to future reconciliation. It means recognizing that even if a relationship is struggling, the love you feel still has value. It means choosing to express that love in ways that expand rather than confine you, ways that keep you from being trapped in sadness or rejection. Ultimately, love is not something that runs out. It is an energy that can transform, regenerate, and multiply. By redirecting your love, you are choosing not to stay in a place of pain, but to move toward a space of creation, connection, and meaning. And in doing so, you will discover that rejection does not define your ability to love. It can be the catalyst for finding new and beautiful ways to live fully. Number 8. Redefining your purpose in later life. A child's rejection can be one of the most heartbreaking experiences for any parent. However, it can also be a turning point, a call to look inward and ask yourself, who am I beyond this role I have carried for so long? Aging, combined with the distance or rejection of a child, invites you to redefine your purpose, not as a sacrifice, but as an opportunity to rediscover yourself. For years, perhaps even decades, your identity may have revolved around being a mother or father. From their first steps to their biggest milestones, everything was about them. But now, in this moment of distance, it may feel as if that purpose has faded, leaving behind a difficult void. This is where the wisdom of Stoic philosophy can offer you guidance. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The happiness of your life depends on the quality of your thoughts." This is a powerful reminder that your purpose is not lost. It simply needs to be redirected toward a new chapter. Redefining your purpose begins with accepting that you are more than the role you have played. Being a parent is an essential part of you, but it does not define your entire existence. Within you are passions, interests, and dreams that may have been set aside for years. Now, you have the opportunity to explore the parts of yourself that have been dormant. As Seneca said, as long as you live, keep learning how to live. Aging is not the end. It is a new stage to discover who else you can be, what else you can contribute to the world, and what else you can enjoy. This process of redefinition can be liberating. Think about what once brought you joy before parenthood took center stage in your life. Perhaps you loved writing, painting, traveling, or learning new things. Maybe you always wanted to dedicate time to a project that you kept postponing. Now is the time to embrace it. Rediscovering yourself does not mean abandoning your love for your child. It means choosing to honor your own worth as an individual. Stoic philosophy also teaches us that our ability to adapt defines our strength. Epictetus said, "Do not seek for things to happen as you wish. Wish for them to happen as they do, and you will be happy." Perhaps this distance from your child was never part of the plan you imagined, but you can find new purpose within it. Instead of resisting change, allow yourself to flow with it, seeking the opportunities this new phase can offer you. Think of the metaphor of a tree. For years, a tree bears fruit, provides shade, and nourishes those around it. But when autumn comes, its leaves fall, and it seems to stand alone. Yet in that stillness, the tree continues to grow from within. Its roots expand, its trunk strengthens, and it prepares for the next spring. Similarly, this moment of rejection may feel like an autumn in your life, a time to strengthen yourself from within, to deepen your roots, and to realize that your purpose goes beyond the fruits you have given. Rejection, as painful as it is, can be a catalyst to ask yourself, what do I want to do with the time I have left? What legacy do I want to leave, not just as a parent, but as a person? Instead of focusing solely on what you have lost, you can concentrate on what you still have to gain. Learn, grow, explore, and live with the curiosity and enthusiasm of someone who knows that each day is a new opportunity. Redefining your purpose does not mean giving up on your relationship with your child. If one day that bond is restored, you will have even more to offer, not from emptiness, but from the fullness of someone who has found their own path. But even if that moment never comes, you will have built a life that is rich, meaningful, and fulfilling. Ultimately, redefining your purpose is an act of self-love. It is recognizing that while one part of your life may have changed, you are still capable of growing, contributing, and finding joy. Do not let a child's rejection define your worth. As Seneca said, it is not that we lack time to live, but that we waste it on things that do not matter. Do not waste this time that is yours. Reinvent yourself, rediscover yourself, and honor the person you are, beyond any role you have ever played. Nature gives us a powerful lesson about rejection. When a tree loses a branch, it does not stop growing. The wound remains visible, but the tree keeps reaching for the light, extending its roots and continuing its journey. We are the same. We face emotional winters, like the rejection of a child, that can feel devastating. But even in the midst of loss, we have the ability to seek new directions, to root ourselves in what nourishes us, and to open up to the light of new opportunities. This moment does not define who you are. What defines you is how you choose to face it. You can let the pain consume you, or you can use it as fertile ground for rediscovery. Rejection hurts, yes, but it is also a reminder that you are still here, that your purpose is not over, and that you still have love and strength to give to the world, even if that love needs to find new directions. Marcus Aurelius said, "The universe is change. Our life is what our thoughts make of it." You have the power to transform this challenge into an opportunity to grow, to reconnect with yourself, and to find a peace that does not depend on the actions of others. My name is Gabriel, and if this is your first time on the channel, I invite you to subscribe and turn on notifications. If you've made it this far, I want to congratulate you for having the courage to reflect on these ideas. Comment the phrase, "I choose my peace," and let me know where you're tuning in from. I'd love to know who is walking this path toward inner strength and serenity with me. Don't forget to share this video with someone who might need it. Sometimes, a simple reflection can completely change the way we face our own emotional winters. I'll see you in the next video, and until then, remember, like the tree, you keep growing, reaching for the light and finding your purpose, no matter what you have lost.